Hey Mike, where are we at today?
So today we're at the Bolsa Chica Wetlands in Huntington Beach, California, where we're going to be walking through here and seeing a critically important environment for both fish and migratory birds. This is a very contained area right in the heart of a city, because we just want to show viewers that can get out and about in local places not far from your house and see a lot of very fascinating and interesting wildlife. Real excited to take you here today.
No excuses. Anywhere you're at, you can usually find some place to go hiking at, exploring.
This place is one of
something new.
It's one of my favorite little places. It's 30 minutes from the house. Okay. And every time you come here, there's different seasons, there's different things going on. And we're going to walk through here today and find as many things for you to see as possible.
Cool.
We're right in the middle of the city here. But a wetlands, the coastal wetlands are critical habitat for both birds and fish here on our coast, because they serve as nurseries and breeding ground for many fish. And they're in here. They come in the spring here in the
There's a duck.
Late summer.
Look, a duck.
That's not a duck, okay? That's a cormorant. That's a fishing bird. And if you watch him long enough, he's going to dive down. He's following. What he's doing, he's on top of a small school of fish. He'll dive up and down and grab them underwater. Yeah, and the interesting thing is with those are non-indigenous. That means they're non-native to this area. They were introduced in the late 1800s, middle of the late 1800s, by Chinese immigrants. They were brought here because back in China they used those birds to catch fish.
Okay.
But they're here and thriving in huge numbers, and they have been for decades. You're seeing all this green from local rains. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to see this. This is all going to go away in probably about a month. It's going to get a lot more air. In this small little wetlands, there's a lot of history. There's history from World War II. There's remnants here of coastal gun mounts that were put in to guard this coastline from the Japanese in World War II. Did
the Japanese ever actually attack here, though?
There was a paranoia after Pearl Harbor where there was a fear on this whole coastline that the Japanese were going to attack, and they actually did. They actually did come in submarines down in Santa Barbara, and they surfaced and shelled an oil refinery there.
Really?
And so it created a hysteria on this whole coastline, and there was a whole coastal defense system of artillery put in down the coast, just in case Japanese ships came. So kind of an ironic little weird thing you'd never think about now.
Pretty cool.
Not a lot for it to, you think about, there's a 155 millimeter gun sitting here at one point.
Wow.
Watching this coastline for Japanese submarines.
Wow. Is that like this little, is that place where the gun was, you think?
This ring right here, this metal ring, and you can see this little piece of it right here. What they call a Panama gun mount. And there was rollers, basically. The gun set in the center of the cannon, right in there.
Yeah.
And then it rolled like a turret would roll around on this continuous ring. So if it needed to point this way or it needed to point that way, it would roll on a big rolling system on this ring right here. These have been long removed and taken away, but obviously they didn't need to take the emplacements out, so they sit here to this day. It's kind of a reminder of another time. If you look out here where those little sets of palm trees are, okay, in the late 1800s there was a duck club, like a big lodge and clubhouse built over there. And there was duck blinds, and they used to duck hunt in here for years, for decades. This is a kind of a success story here, because this coastal wetlands you see here today, this is a fairly recent development. This area was redeveloped in the early 2000s to allow water to move through it and cycle through it again. For years this was closed up, and this area was kind of used by oil companies, and it was rededicated and redone and redeveloped in the early 2000s. And now it's actually filtering water through again like its original intention was. And that allows fish from the ocean to come in here and breed and lay their eggs. Areas like this, these kind of wetlands, they're critical to our local infrastructure, our habitat infrastructure for fish even out in the ocean out there. The tides push fish and things through here, and then it moves, the birds are always following the fish in here. There's a gate down there that regulates flow of water through these ponds. There's a lot more birds down there because they hang around that gate, because there's tons of fish coming in and out of that gate all the time.
What's that, Mike?
This is you'd think, just a snail, but see how it has these interesting stripes on it. This is actually a native.
Is that just a shell? It looks like there's something in there.
No, there's something in there, but see how he's back in there?
Oh, okay, he's hiding, okay.
But this is a native snail, which these are fairly rare. You don't find them, get them out of the way. This time of year after rains, they're moving around.
See, we're looking out for the guy, right? Looking out for the little guy.
A lot of the snails, you won't see those in your garden. You'll see a lot of the snails you see in your garden around here are actually they're introduced species as well. They're from Europe.
So Mike, why'd they introduce the snails from Europe?
They came over in plants, you know, that were brought over from Europe for gardening purposes, and potentially people brought them over too as a food source because they do eat snails in other parts of the world. Okay, if you look out here, Jonathan, you see kind of a lot of stuff going on here. There's Pacific Coast Highway. Okay, you've got Catalina Island out there. You've got
you can barely make it out, but it's there.
It's there. Sure. You can see the profile of it, and then you can see like all these tankers and cargo ships that are parked out here. They're waiting. If you pan over there, you can see the cranes. See them? That's the Port of Los Angeles and Port of Long Beach. That's the largest dual port system in the United States right there. Right,
really?
Right, yeah, right at eye. So as you're standing here in this little coastal wetlands, you're seeing some of the biggest industrial spots in the United States, and there's offshore oil rigs here too.
You caught a lizard.
Yeah, this is a little guy here. This is a, you gotta watch them because they always want to vault out. You can see this guy has lost his tail at one point and it's grown back. See it right here? This tail.
Okay.
They have the ability, this type, to lose a tail and take it back. It's a defense mechanism because the tail is gone and it leaves them to live another day. This is a side blotch lizard. See all the color on him? This is a male. Young. This is about as big as these guys get, and they're a sand lizard. They live. See this loose sand right here? This is where I found him. This little loose fill. They like to bury themselves in that. See, and he's got like kind of a little rim right here where they can dig themselves under in the sand.
Okay.
So he's a little agitated, so I'm gonna let him go. They have a very soft skin, and they're mostly a ground lizard. You don't find these up in trees or anything like that. But this is one of the two like main species of lizard you'll see here in the wetlands, and you'll see them in abundance. But these guys, this type in particular, really only occurs on our coast.
Okay.
So watch him. He's gonna shoot off when I let him go.
Just to clarify, no lizards were harmed in the filming of this video.
Here's another egret right here. See him, Jonathan?
I see him. Oh.
Yeah, in the water.
I see like the top of his head and his chest are very interesting.
His yellow feet.
Look at that.
And he's intent. Look at how intent he is. He's not even giving you the time of day.
He knows.
Because he's focused. See this water? This tidal push is pushing all this small fry, all these small fish against these sides. And that's where he's anticipating. Look at him down there. See him? He's waiting for his shot. If you watch him long enough, you'll watch him nail a fish. Check this out. These terns are making quite a racket, and they're getting excited because they know soon there's going to be a bunch of fish in here. So they're getting themselves all worked up while they're waiting. These guys come all the way up from Central America. They far down as Colombia, and they fly up here, these little birds. These birds probably seen more coastline than most of us will in their lifetime. And that's what they do every year, back and forth. Look at what we got here. We got a Canada goose. See him? Moving along right there. This area in here is in what they call the National Flyway. And the National Flyway is a system of stopping points up and down the entire United States where migratory birds are allowed to come in and stop and rest and then get moving again. So they're protected spots that have been set up by the government so that these birds can move freely east to west, north to south, wherever they're going. So here we got another Canada goose just relaxing and taking in the day. So leave him alone and let him get some sleep. So Jonathan, look down there. You see down right there?
Okay.
That's a tern right there. Now you hear all that racket?
Yeah.
Pan up in the sky here and look at the sky. It's just black. There's thousands of them wheeling around right now. Thousands of them. This is a courtship going on in progress right before our eyes.
Like this is like a kid's show too. Like this is gonna be age appropriate.
Well, this is all PG, maybe PG-13. What we're seeing right now. There's nothing crazy going on up there. These guys have made it all the way up from Central America now, and they're here to lay their eggs out in this area right in here. And that's another point I get on of how important these wetland areas are for protection, and how they basically ensure survival of a species. Because these birds, even though they work thousands of miles of coastline, they're only laying their eggs in a few specific places, in protected places like this.
Is that algae over there, Mike?
That's an algae bloom. This is not the best thing because what this does is deoxygenates the water. So that could potentially be a kill zone for small fish and invertebrates and things that live in there. So not the greatest to see that. You really, in a healthy wetlands where it's circulating, you really don't want to see too much of that.
It's ironic because it actually, I mean, to me it looks really pretty. It's a good like contrast of color.
Yeah.
The green against the blue, but it's not good for...
Well, the irony is what
water.
You see as something beautiful is death for a bunch of little animals that can't get out of the way. Hey, take a look at this little water's edge along this channel right here, Jonathan. You've got, see all these little tiny holes in the ground here?
Uh-huh.
Looks like somebody took a stick and poked a bunch of holes in.
Let's see.
See them there? You can see one like right there. See it?
Yeah.
A hole right there.
Yeah, I see it.
There's a hole right here. All these little holes. Now what lives in there, this is kind of another amazing thing about wetlands. It's just all these ecosystems that live in here. These are thousands of small, what they call fiddler crabs that live in those holes. And what they'll do is right now our tide is up and it's washing all this water through this corridor right here, which is bringing in nutrients and food particles. And as that tide recedes, it's gonna leave all this stuff up on the mud flats, which is basically a dinner bell for all these guys. And they'll all come slowly and cautiously out and eat whatever's in this zone right here. So everything in here has got something that eats it. There's just so much life in a wetlands. What we got right here, see all this little line of stuff? This is from a previous high tide. Now you can see outside of the obvious plastic and trash that people generate. This gives you kind of an idea of what actually lives in here. You've got your grasses right here, right? All this debris. Here is an exoskeleton. Look, this is a little dried up crab that lives down in those holes. All these little small crabs, they come out. There's thousands of dead ones in here, all their little skeletons. Small clams, this is what's living in that mud. Just so when you walk around and you look at all this mud, it's full of thousands of living creatures. Okay, this is our other major lizard over here. This is western fence lizard, or what they call bluebelly. See how he's pumping up and down like that? Okay, that's a dominant symbol. That's a male. And what he's doing is he's establishing his territory. He's telling us, hey, this is my space, get away from here. And that also attracts females. Okay, look at this right here. This is an adult male side blotched lizard. You see he's out with all his full colors on. He's trying to attract a female. Would you look at that?
What's even more impressive, Mike, is you really get to hang with that camera now.
Yeah?
Congratulations.
Well, there you go.
Now that's the best thing I've seen all day long.
Really?
That's so cool. Is that now stork? Or?
No, that's a white egret, Jonathan.
White egret? Okay. Oh, so we saw them before, but this
we saw these. Yeah, what happened is we saw these fishing. Yeah. Right now, not only can they fish, but they patrol around here and they can eat small mice and gophers and everything. See the size of that beak? Yeah. They'll wait by a gopher hole. That poor gopher will pop his head up and you'll never know it hit him.
Wow.
Yep. That's a lethal weapon right there. It's like a spear. So Jonathan, this is kind of a big deal. This is definitely the biggest thing I think we're going to see on this walk. Right around this corner here, there's a full adult-sized Pacific coastal rattlesnake. He's just getting ready to cross the path.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So just wait a second here, and then the next scene we'll show you this big guy crossing the path.
Okay.
Here we go. Here we are full circle. We got about an hour and a half and we're right back where we started from. But I mean, we took you around the whole wetlands and you got to see a lot of fascinating things that are going on, and now the tide's going out and a bunch of other stuff's going on. So I mean, this place is a never-ending, never-changing place.
We'll have to come back here for part 2 one day.
Maybe one day we'll do a part 2 of this at a different time of year, but we really enjoyed it, and please subscribe, and we value your comments and information.
Yeah, thanks guys. See you next time.
Take care.
Bye.